White out of Canada. Good evening, Dr. White.
Good evening, Keith.
And we also have another very special guest. We have a good evening, Anthony.
Good evening, Keith.
Well, the products here from Immunotech are quite incredible, but as Hippocrates said some 2,500 years ago, let food be thy medicine. And to that point, the products from Immunotech don't cure anything, but they are simply the most powerful foods that you can possibly use. And to that aspect, we've seen some amazing things occur here, right, Dr. White?
Absolutely.
Well, and right now we've got ongoing research with autism at a number of university levels, but it's really important that this product reach out and you touch someone that you care with it. And to that point, we have our good friend Anthony with us this evening. Good evening, Anthony.
Hello, Keith.
You were approached how long ago now regarding Immunotech?
Oh my goodness, I believe it was about 16 months ago.
16 months ago. Now you're a firefighter up there in just out of Toronto, I understand, right?
Yes, sir.
And you have a dynamic 6-year-old son?
Yeah, he will be 7 in July.
7 in July, and I know that someone reached out and talked to you about Immunotech, I believe, because of Ethan. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And maybe you can give us just a little bit of your story and Ethan's story, if you would, tonight.
Absolutely. Richard, McCurdy gave me a call one day. He's a firefighter with me, and just basically said, Anthony, there's something. I know your situation with your son. There's something that I really think you should try. He told me a little bit about it and gave me some information. We had already been doing several years of biomedical intervention with one of the top naturopathic doctors around, and really we weren't really getting a tremendous amount of progress. I read the research and read the information on Immunocal and what it's supposed to do, and being that most children with autism have up to 50% less glutathione than typically developing children, I thought, well, this is definitely worth a shot. We put Ethan on the product. We made sure he was off of all the other things he was taking. That way there would be no mix-up in terms of what product was doing what, or the result was based on him being on the Immunocal.
Well, and in fact, Anthony, if I could, you were actually, I believe the first time we talked, you actually had Ethan, and you were just finishing up a protocol, so it was a couple of weeks after you heard about Immunotech and Immunocal before you started Ethan on, because you were finishing up something else to see if there was hope and benefit from what you were currently doing, correct?
That is correct, absolutely. So once we finished that and we put Ethan on the product, we did not tell anyone he was on the product. That way there wouldn't be any preconceived notions on results or expectations, and within days, he was just the minor things that people think, oh yeah, well every child knows how to put their boots on, and Ethan was never able to put them on correctly. He actually stopped, put them the proper way, and put them on. And we thought, wow, okay, well maybe that's just coincidence. Well, within a week, we picked him up at senior kindergarten, and I went, and his teacher had tears in her eyes, and I thought, oh no, what happened to my son? And she was ecstatic because he actually turned his chair and asked another little girl what she was having for lunch, responded to her, and then carried on. And he had never, ever interacted with another child. He was, in his own little world, which is typical for kids in the spectrum. They just want to do their thing by themselves, and nothing else around them, they really pay attention to. And that happened with family members, and little by little, these things were happening more and more as the weeks went on. And we thought, wow, this is unbelievable. And even to present day, Ethan progressed. At his senior kindergarten graduation last summer, he was, and I have him on video, and we've showed it at some events that we've had, some meetings, that he was without his EA, with his peers on stage and actually on the microphone was saying what he wanted to be when he grew up. He said some of the thank yous in front of the entire auditorium, and it was just unbelievable that he had made that big a stride.
Well, now, I know when we first talked, because as I reflect back on that conversation, there was, Ethan's verbal communication with others was very limited. You were sharing with me, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, Ethan did not. He was nonverbal till 3.5. And then he was making some sounds, but he wouldn't communicate with others. His eye contact was he basically never made eye contact, and he had aggressive behavior. There were a lot of times where, whether it was in a chapters or whether it was in a park, that he would get aggressive and bite and kick and pinch, and it was very difficult, as most families with children with autism can relate to. And once again, he has just transformed into a completely different child. Those behaviors are non-existent. They're just in the mirror of what it was like, and it's just been an amazing progress. And even just today, he's in full-time grade 1. He does not have a full-time EA. Academically, he's doing amazing. The social component continues to get better, and what we find is that his therapy is more successful. Everything is more successful with him being on the product. And a story that happened today when he was dropped off by his therapist. She said, "Oh my God, today was huge." And well, what happened? He was at a play date with another little boy, and this little boy was crying, and Ethan said, "Why are you crying? Stop crying." And it even startled the other autistic kid, and Ethan said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Well, I want to play another game." Ethan said, "All right, well, let's go pick one." I mean, this was just non-prompted, on his own, which is phenomenal, because most kids with autism have to be prompted with what to say and so on and so forth.
Now, you were sharing with me, that every day, because now I don't know what an EA is.
An educational assistant. So a lot of kids with special needs may have one-on-one in a classroom or two-on-one.
Okay. So now you were sharing with me that Ethan is sitting in the front of the class.
Yes.
And how has this changed your family's life?
Oh goodness, dramatically. It's hard to even describe in words. Having an autistic child puts a lot of strain on families, a lot of strain on marriages. I think the divorce rate is in the 90%. And really, I mean, just the ease of being able to take care of Ethan, do everyday things, know that he's in school and doing well. I mean, just in every way, it's just been that much easier. And I mean, it's hard to put into words, Keith.
Well, Anthony, because I keep reflecting back from that first conversation that we had, I guess, as you said, some 16 months ago. And, because Ethan was very regimented about what he would eat, correct?
Absolutely.
And I remember it was sweet potatoes, mashed sweet potatoes, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so you put the Immunocal in the mashed sweet potatoes, right?
Absolutely. That was the way to get it into him. We put it in his sweet potatoes and, the baby jar sweet potatoes, and it mixes absolutely great. And a lot of kids, especially Ethan, had a lot of sensory issues, so very sensitive to taste and texture, and it worked out perfect. He ate it no problem, and presently we mix the Immunocal in his snack pack puddings. We instead of having it in a shake, we just mix it in his in various things, whether it's yogurt or pudding, or sometimes we still use the sweet potatoes.
Well, Anthony, because we didn't talk about any of this in advance, so people are listening to this call. We're kind of, we're interacting here on a first. I'm going to ask, what else have you noticed about his diet and how he's looking at foods today?
It's actually remarkable. His appetite increased, and he actually, put on good weight. Like, he was very skinny, ribs were showing, and he's starting to really want to try different foods. We'll be at the grocery store and he'll say, "Oh, I'd like to try broccoli." And he's willing to try things, which is phenomenal. And he will legitimately give them a try, and his diet has really expanded since the inception of taking Immunocal. So it's helped him in a lot of ways, diet-wise as well.
Now that has to be pretty interesting for your therapists as well, correct?
Absolutely. They are truly amazed, and obviously Ethan is not their only child that they look after or that they teach, and it's phenomenal. The gains he makes, he is definitely the most progressive student that they have. They are amazed at his school. He's in a public school in a grade 1 class, and they're just amazed by his progress. And he actually just won a Perseverance Award last week. Yeah.
So it's been quite a blessing. So you were glad that you were approached about Immunotech some 16, 18 months ago.
Absolutely, and furthermore, the naturopathic doctor that was, that we still see with Ethan, not only is amazed by Ethan's progress, but he has shared with me that he has put other autistic, children and teenagers and even some in their early 20s. And he's starting to have some success with the product with various ages. So we're ecstatic that that we got approached, that we decided to step out of the box and try the product, and I'm looking forward to the future. I mean, I'd still like to increase. He only takes 1 pack a day. If there's a lot of illness in his class or whatever, we bump him up to 2. And that's the other thing. He would be on antibiotics constantly, and it's unbelievable how he stays away from getting ill. A lot of times, it's just remarkable in that way as well.
Now, what has Immunocal done for you?
Oh goodness, Immunocal for me. I mean, I'm a firefighter. Obviously, we're involved in a lot of toxins and chemicals that we put into our bodies from going to fires and calls. Obviously, the detoxification that Immunocal provides for us is remarkable health-wise. Definitely given me more energy, more strength, but more importantly, I mean, what it's done for my son, it's changed my life, and that's probably the most important piece to what Immunocal has done for myself and my family.
Thank you, Anthony. Well, if you'll stay on the line here, I know we want to bring Dr. Barry White back into the conversation. Dr. White, it's heartwarming to know that this product is touching the lives of both Anthony and his family and his son Ethan in such an incredible way, isn't it?
It's awe-inspiring from our standpoint. We have seen this. Anthony's able to express, giving us sort of a case study of what his son has been like and what he's like now. But we see that repeated over and over again. And I know so many times parents are listening to their medical doctors who haven't heard of Immunocal and haven't heard how this nutritional component could make such a significant difference. And I was talking to another father just yesterday, and the doctor didn't know that he ever heard of Immunocal. He was told about being in the doctor's book. He looked it up, and he said when he found it, he actually was laughing out loud. He said, "How on earth could this thing be right under my nose and my not knowing about it?" So thank you very much for showing it to me. And what he said to the father was, "And put your for the next 6 months on Immunocal." So we're seeing it slowly get there, but it is heartwarming to know that this is not drugs, and this is an intervention only by adding food that should be in our diets normally, but it's just not there. And so this critical part is so significant for children, and particularly as we see for the autistic children. But there's other spectrum disorders that are similar to that they benefit as well. Just add the Immunocal as an intervention of food that should have been in their diet in the first place.
Absolutely. Well, Anthony, if I could have come back to a couple of final questions. If someone is dealing with autism within their family, and they want, there has to be some bullet points or some points of information that you looked at that caused you to do a little further investigation that then enabled you to feel comfortable starting Ethan on the Immunocal. And maybe you could, as we close out the recorded part of this call, maybe you could touch on that briefly, if you would, please.
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, glutathione is key for everyone, but especially children with autism or on the spectrum. And being that Immunocal is the only proven product to raise glutathione at a cellular level is really important. Ethan tried lipoceutical glutathione, which was a liquid, but it gets broken down in the stomach. So a true way to raise glutathione with Immunocal was one of the big points that I saw. And secondly, detoxification. With children with autism, there's that direct correlation between the gut and the brain. And furthermore, we tried a lot of chelation methods to try and get the metals and toxins out of Ethan, but the problem was it would overload his liver. He wasn't able to excrete it, and that would actually cause him neurological effects and cause really weird, behaviors and some behaviors that were really unbelievable, where he would be, reaching into the toilet to touch feces, and it was like, what is going on? And this happened when he tried these different chelation methods. It was just too much for his body, whereas with the Immunocal, it's just detoxifying him on a daily basis, a gentle way, and it did not have that negative effect. So those are the two biggest points with Immunocal, and also it was easy to take in terms of mixing it with food. There was no taste, and obviously, getting past the sensory issues for autistic kids is very, very difficult, and it was made easy, and the same goes for a lot of other families with children with autism that I know are taking the product, easily.
Well, Anthony, I hold dear to my heart the story you shared, that when you recorded your son's graduation from senior kindergarten, and you showed that video to some people who did not know your son,
yeah,
and they couldn't tell which one was Ethan. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely, and I think everyone that knew Ethan, from when he was first diagnosed, and from a kid who saw what he was like and sees him now. I mean, the common phrase, "Oh my God, he's just a different kid." And a lot of people, I have to, really let them know, look, my son has autism, and they kind of look at me. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of things we need to work on and to continue his improvement. But it has really been a godsend, and we thank God every day that he is making this progress. So.
Well, that's what Sandra and I have, for 16 years, we've understood that this product is truly a gift from God, and it's a blessing for all those that try it. So, Anthony, we want to thank you for being with us here. Dr. White, thank you very much. And once again, this is a product experience and training call, and we must state the products from Immunotech don't cure anything, but as Hippocrates said some 2,500 years ago, let food be thy medicine. You're invited to join with us every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern.